the southeastern part of Nigeria, where the Independent People of Biafra, IPOB, has alleged that frequent court adjournments of its leader, Nnamdi Kanu's case, show that the federal government is running away from the court because it does not have any evidence or case against him.
According to the pro-Biafran group, it is saddening that the whole world has continued to watch as the federal government and the Nigerian courts continue to maltreat Kanu through his continuous detention at the DSS custody in Abuja, despite the courts freeing him. The statement was made on Tuesday by the group's spokesman, Emma Powerful, who added that the group is at a loss to understand where the delay and the adjournments at the Supreme Court are coming from. The statement read, IPOB movement, ably led by Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, wishes to ask once again what the federal government and Supreme Court are doing towards the illegal detention of Kanu in DSS custody in Abuja. Joining us this morning is public affairs analyst Chukwuma Okenwa. He joins us to share his thoughts on the situation. Good morning, Mr. Okenwa. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning.
All right.
And thank you.
Good to have you. We've seen Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has been in detention for the longest time. The IPOB is blaming the federal government and accusing the federal government of basically just trying to beat around the bush with no strong evidence to use against him, even though the courts have made the courts have given their verdict. Why is he still being held in DSS custody? And really, what does that say of the government?
Of course, I would say that the Nigerian government, the federal government, has proven over time, without number, to have less regard for human rights, for which it's part of the Convention of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and as well as its own court orders. Like when you are the government of a particular nation and you cannot, obey the laws of that particular nation that you're supposed to show example, then there is a problem. Because if the appellate court has come and say, well, this individual is discharged, there wouldn't be any reason for the continued detention at the DSS facility. It doesn't just make any sense. There is no basis for that, no justification, no empowerment on the part of the government to keep holding him sway.
All right, Mr. Okenwa, I mean, I've just seen a story this morning where Nnamdi Kanu says that he would not beg for his freedom. He also goes on to say that pleading with the Nigerian government for his release is an insult. So it shows basically, where his mindset really is, with regards to what's going on, along with, of course, his legal representative, Michael Zekome. Do you expect that things will maybe turn out or be played different with the new government? The Buhari administration is gone. We now have, of course, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Do you expect that things might maybe, turn out different with regards to Nnamdi Kanu's case?
Well, at the moment, I'm not expecting anything different in terms of political situations, maybe a solution, because reasonably as expected, this should be one of the first things we want to hear, the position of Mr. President, considering it's something that affects the concerns and sensibility of a whole region. It's not a matter that maybe someone could sit in the office close to 90 days and not just even a comment as regards to the situation. We'll see how over the time this has led to the inactivity of businesses on Mondays, school, educational institutions shut out, and then even security concerns. So how can you have 1/6 of a region and then a very serious matter like that and not even a comment? It's just like someone having 6 children and one of your child go astray and people are waiting to hear what is going to be the next thing. Are you going to ask people to help you in the search of him and you've not made any particular comment? It really shows that we are not really looking at a political solution. Good thing, during Buhari administration, he kept on saying, well, this is not all about political solution. Let's wait for the court. And now the court now gave a judgment and he could not abide by it. And I think it doesn't really make well for a nation as big as Nigeria.
But I'm a bit concerned, and I'm sure that this is a concern that a number of Nigerians have as well. How the courts, which is supposed to be the body, an institution that is independent in itself, that is the temple of justice. We've seen that over and over again. The court would give a judgment and then it would not be upheld, or would give a decision that would not be upheld. We saw it with Nnamdi Kanu, and we did see it again with Godwin Emefiele. Also, we've seen cases, a number of cases of people who have been held in detention longer than they should have. Abdul Rashid Bawa, I believe, is still held in detention. How do we get ourselves out of this situation? How do we get to a point? What can we do? What must we do to ensure? Because I want to believe that they are very well aware of what the law says. And but the blatant or the flagrant disobedience of this, how do we get out of this really?
In all honesty, like as you said, that absolute power corrupts absolutely. If we take a cue from the United States of America, when Trump wanted to compromise the military to his advantage, and the military general was like, well, I'm loyal to the American Constitution, and the people are not to yourself. I really think that sometimes our problem could actually be the military in this particular country. Yes, I do not advocate for coup action, but we want to see a situation where when you are taking like that oath of allegiance, understand that it's actually to the nation, not just entirely to an individual, especially when the person is going against court orders. So we want to hear like something like more robust from them, more or less like security advice that you can't actually be taking these decisions because you have military men that are surrounding you. Because they take all these advantages that, oh, as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, you have the police and the army at your beck and call, but that cannot be said of the judges. So you want to like leverage on that particular fact to abuse power. And this is like things that we begin to see in African countries, pushing people to take like, unpopular paths to restore the country to what I really call true leadership. Because there is no nation that truly practices democracy, no nation that truly practices democracy where it can even be hard, not to talk about tolerated, accepted and allowed for a range of time that the court speaks and an individual will not obey under the pretext of a governor or president. That cannot happen in developed nations and even some developing democracies. I wonder why our case should be different.
All right, but I also want to ask about what do you think might be the reasons, why it's hard for the courts or for the Nigerian government to release him? Is there a thing that they fear about a free Nnamdi Kanu who's roaming the streets of, Abia State or Aba or anywhere in the southeast? Is there a thing that the Nigerian government is worried about? And that's, one. And another thing is, in the time that he's been in detention, we've also seen the rise of certain, persons that were his, subjugates, people who grew up from his own same school of thought. Simon Ekpa is one of them. I'm sure that he's not the only one, or who would be the last one. So is there still that, issue with the Nigerian government seeing that they have something that they may not be able to control if they release Nnamdi Kanu?
Yeah, it's a genuine concern, actually, coming from the security perspective, because, in all honesty, I see Nnamdi Kanu as a double-edged sword. Whether you keep him in detention, there's a problem. You release him, there's a problem, because he's not going to come out to just keep his mouth shut, right? But what I would have expected is government follow the right process, get this young man to the table, let the conversation start. Everything is up for resolution. The issues that Nnamdi Kanu actually raised up are things, salient points, issues of marginalization. How a particular region, once before was esteemed as co-equal stakeholders in the Nigerian project, has been relegated to the background. These are like salient points. It's mentioned and it's very visible. It's very, very visible. So what we would have expected is get him on the table rather than the government following all the unpopular parts of even extraordinary rendition, literally kidnapping him back to Nigeria. And then now that the court has released you, will also release him. Everything has been wrong about the process. What is reasonably expected is go on the round table of dialogue. It is not the person you are detaining and you've been trying to like a kind of Christian a criminal that is not advocating for court process, that is not advocating even for a referendum. He has not come and said, okay, we are going to take back powers through arms. Having said that, I think let the government act right, follow the process, get him on the table. And then with respect to like the rising of other disciples, yes, of course, it's a concern. But I know that looking at even like some that have claimed to be disciples and are loyal to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, and when he whispers they still cannot follow. They want to destabilize the region, taking advantage of something that has happened in time past. I doubt how disciple some of those acclaimed disciples are.
So, if this detention continues and nothing is being done, I mean, if you look at the IPOB statement, they've made several claims. They've also even blamed the Supreme Court and said that the Supreme Court, in failing to fix a date, also has a role to play in all of this. What will the continued detention of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, what might it mean? Does it mean that we're going to see continued sit-at-home orders? What would it mean, really?
Of course, what it means is the insensitivity of the federal government to both respect its own laws and also the sentiments of a whole region. Because don't forget, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is not one irresponsible citizen that was caught committing crime. He was actually advocating for issues that matter to the region. And if the government doesn't respect the sentiments and the fact also that Igbos are very entrepreneurial, we are talking about a collapsing economy. One of the ways we can revitalize that is to ensure that every region is functioning optimally as long as the economy is concerned. We need more of those contributions to the GDP, as is evident from the Southeast, rather than even allowing like a situation that destabilizes it. Because, like I tell you, that sentiment is real. I live and I stay in Enugu, despite all of the strategies and tactics of the new administration to actually nip this matter on the board, using the military to get people out to work. It has not really worked because the real issue has not been addressed. And I think the responsibilities of the government to really address this issue as part of the responsibility of the government, and the primary purpose is actually the welfare of the people and the security of the people.
Yeah, 100%, but I hope it doesn't take away the responsibility of the state government and, of course, the local government also. For a long time, the focus has really been on federal government, to a large extent, but I don't think a lot of people have questioned what state governments have been able to do for the people of the Southeast, across the 5 southeastern states. But I also want to, ask this. You're in the Southeast. What is the mood like for people, at this stage concerning the fight for Biafra and the fight for, the independence of Biafra? Do you still sense that there's a lot of people who are still eager to keep that going and to have Nnamdi Kanu released so that they can achieve their lifelong goals of having Biafra? Okay,
yeah. Before I comment on that shortly, let me quickly say something about maybe the role of the state government. And we know this is not the state government that is obeying court orders. It's not the state government that is holding Nnamdi Kanu. And these are the 2 major things that, once it is fixed, everything will be okay.
No. But I'm referring to, because your initial statements were Nnamdi Kanu's demands, where, of course, were for a better, a standard of living for his people. And some other things, So, the state governments have a huge role to play there. It's not just the federal government. The Southeasterners have been failed by their governors.
I understand, but are we saying he should be kept until the government meet up with those demands of the
Absolutely people? Not. Absolutely not.
Yes. So he should enjoy his freedom while also we begin to hold our leaders accountable. But then having said that, at the moment, with respect to the sentiments of like Biafra, I would just say like only 20% of people are really bent on, we want this to come and we're looking forward to that. Largely Igbos are peaceful and, national, ready to live amongst every other people in Nigeria. From statistics, it's very clear that there's no tribe that live or interlive with others like the Igbos. They can make homes there, build, skyscrapers, and actually understand that that place is their home. And with this level of mindset, I think all that is just needed and all that Igbos are clamoring is we should be treated as equal stakeholders of the same nation and not as tenants.
Interesting. Chukwuma Okenwa, thank you so much for joining us this morning and sharing your thoughts with us on this story. We hope to have some positive feedback in this regard and that justice is not just done but manifestly being seen to be done by all. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.